So for those of you that may not know, Kshama is the founder and director of Chinmaya Organization for Rural Development, CORD. A pediatrician by profession, Kshama left her flourishing medical practice in Delhi in the early 1980s to serve in the tribal villages of the Himalayan mountains, inspired by Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda. Kshama epitomizes selfless service. She has dedicated her life to CORD and is an early pioneer of the microfinance movement in India, which today is the largest in the world. Kshama has been an active advocate for many, many years against issues such as gender discrimination and has been a leader in disability inclusion, empowering and transforming the lives of well over 500,000 people in the past 4 decades. It is only fitting that Kshama has been honoured many a time on a variety of prestigious platforms with awards and accolades. In 2008, the government of India honoured Kshama with India's highest award in the field of social service, the Padma Shri, presented by the President of India. In 2012, Kshama was awarded the Guardian International Achievement Award for her exceptional work to alleviate poverty in the developing world. And more recently, in 2021, in recognition of the transformation that Kshama has brought about in rural healthcare and her selfless dedication to community healthcare in the rural sector, Kshama was honoured with the Healthcare Humanitarian Award by the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. And this is just naming a few. I've personally been very fortunate to work with Kshama and her team over these past few years, remotely supporting with funding applications to further the reach and the work of CORD. And I feel very blessed to have had this opportunity to serve in this small way. So over to you, Kshama. A very warm welcome from all of us, and we are blessed and honoured to have you with us today. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you. Hari Om. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Now, I would like to just give you a few glimpses of what CORD is about. I know some of you are quite familiar with CORD. I see some faces that have been there. We started our work with Gurudev's blessings in 1985. So the founder of CORD is not me, it's Param Pujya Gurudev. I'm just his instrument. So in 85, when we were starting the project, Gurudev was not too keen in the beginning, government people coming that we want to do something here in the Himalayas, and we had chosen your organization for it to work with USAID and the government of Himachal Pradesh. Then one day he came to know it's for the women in the Himalayas. All the sadhus own a great rin to the women in the Himalayas when they have been wandering in the Himalayas. So it's my rin back to them, my debt back to them. I would love to do it. So that's how we started this work with his blessings in 1985. And it started as a maternal and child health care work. Now, when we really worked with the government in the areas where the government had no services, they asked us to cover certain areas. And the learning was immense. Those days, there was no electricity in the villages where we went. Sometimes we conducted deliveries with kerosene oil lamps and saw the village life at those days very closely. And soon enough we learned that even if we were going to fill up the whole ocean with drugs and treatment, nothing is going to change because we are just doing the tip of the iceberg. Poverty and illness is a vicious cycle. It has many issues, everything is related to each other. Then we realize many things more. We realize that we are not doing much for the women unless we bring about their own self-image, self-esteem, and self-reliance. Plus the government programs were very good on the top, but by the time they were meant to reach the person right in the last mile, didn't reach them. And they were all parallel. That means it just gave one help, but the person who's very marginalized needs not only help, needs livelihood, needs many things. So unless you converge, you don't make any change in their lives. Then other things started coming up that most of the people who serve for the government, whom we call the frontline workers, the extension workers, they, because of the way it is top down, they become answerable to their middle officers, and the officers become answerable to their bosses, and their bosses become answerable to the minister, whereas instead of being answerable to the community, they are being answerable to the, and the minister wants to hear the good news, not the bad news. So the whole feedback system was not working very well because the realities on the ground were not coming up. And the other thing that we realized was that people themselves had become uninvolved, and they had become passive recipients of the whole program. And that's when CORD started becoming, in 87, 88, a people-centric program. So the people-centric program has great power, immense power. It's unimaginable things that people can do. It's unthinkable, because when people think in a group, a community group of people in a village sit together and think, there's not just one issue. Each family has different issues to be addressed, but we cannot address them all. But if the community gets together, they find solutions. Because India is a vast country with large number of villages, and there is no one solution that one can have. So you have to work in the local context, and there are no simple solutions. So if you have to make it very meaningful and relevant program, people have to be there at the center. And who were the center for us? Women groups. Because the women in the villages, when they come together, they are not only thinking about themselves, they're thinking about their children, their husband, their in-laws, everyone. So all issues were coming up. And gradually over the years, we have now a very systematic program where collective strength of the people, the government, and CORD works together to bring answers to the issues. And I would first like to show you the video. We have a short video, 8-minute video. But what I need to make you really go back with as a takeaway from what I'm trying to say is that India can find replicable and scalable answers to rural India's issues, because we have a constitutionally recognized system called the Panchayati Raj institution. I don't know how many of you are familiar. Whole of rural India is governed by Panchayati Raj system. In fact, they elect 3.2 million people every 5 years, of which now at least 33%, in some states 50 to 60% are women as leaders, elected leaders. But the system is defunct in many areas. It is not operating the way it has to work. So, but this constitutional body is very close to the people. And the thing is that we also elect our MPs. We elect our members of legislative assembly in each of the state of the country, but they together, all of them together, are not more than 5,000 people who are elected, who have to look after the future of 1.4 billion people. They can't do it. They don't know what's happening everywhere. But these 3.2 million people, they belong to the villages from where they're elected. If you can train and empower them to do the right things, they already have the constitutional rights, all government programs come to them, then you have a big force, and of that 50% are women. So God works with this Gram Panchayat, the village Panchayat, elected bodies, and the people in the villages. The people in the villages were first cut off from even the elected people. There was no connect. But what we did was that we realized that instead of making random groups anywhere, if the whole Gram Panchayat, just to get you, because most of you may not be familiar with this, but it's important to understand, whole Gram Panchayat is divided into different wards. And in each ward, we have made what is known as a women's group, and we call them Mahila Mandals. And they represent 60 to 100% of the households. Our aim is at least to reach 60%, but in some places we have reached 100%. So you're covering everyone, and they're meeting every month. All issues come, they resolve many together, we facilitate, and we seek help from the government. So the system is very sustainable. It is replicable and scalable all over the country. Because I have now with me Mr. Narendra Paul. He's our CEO. Where's Narendra? Yeah. So Narendra says, Modi ji, give me 2 minutes. I will give you a solution to the various issues, because we proved it on the ground. And because the programs have been designed from the bottom up and does not leave out anyone in the village, a child, an old man, anyone, everyone's included. So it's a vast program, but the number of thematic programs are also many. And all of them have emerged from the ground to the level that we have, sometimes you might think, how can you do it? But it happens because of the people. We work from health, disability, livelihood, both in the farm and non-farm sectors, macrocredit in a very big way because we have to do all this, sanitation, hygiene, nutrition, you name anything, natural resource management, social justice, persons with disability, education, everything with the people in the. So as many issues in the villages, we have as many thematic programs. Each program has many sub-thematic things. So, and today we have a good institute at CORD. It's the training institute too, CORD Training Center for Experiential Grassroots, where we get people from the grassroots to the international level. Everyone comes for different kinds of training on different kinds of thematic issues. We have trained more than 65,000 people there. And each program is now becoming a huge program. One program is SELF, the community-based inclusion program for the persons with disability. We have worked in many directions for policy and advocacy too. Because earlier in 1990 till 1995, there was no act for persons with disability. They were not even recognized as people who were there in the country. So that was one act we worked with other NGOs to bring about. And some years back, in 2016, after the United Nations Convention for People with Disabilities, we worked with the Government of India and other NGOs in the country to bring about an act of the rights of persons with disability, 2016. And I must tell you, the power of changing comes from the grassroots, and this act could not have come through in the parliament if all of us in the nation working in different states had not come together, and we were led by a very nice person called Javed Abedi, who just called us up, in 2016 the parliament sessions were going on, nothing was happening, there were only fights, no bills were getting passed. He called up one of each in each stage and he said, okay, we've got only last 2 days of the parliament happening, and you have to get the Rights of Persons with Disability Act passed. I said, how do we do it? We've got nothing to do. I mean, we have no representation there. What do we do? So you got the greatest representation. Just call up the MP in your state who's there in the parliament and tell him about the act. And I just rang up my MP in our state, and he was very nice. He said, of course we'll pass it tomorrow. And the next day, this is what's done by all the NGOs in different states. Next day it was passed. So it's so easy to do things when you can work with people together from the top to the bottom. And when you speak about policies from the grassroots level and have chance to represent in different forums, a lot of changes can be brought about. And all programs can be done in very systematic way, which is meaningful and relevant to the people. So today, CORD is serving in 6 states of the country. We interact directly with, every month, with 90,000 people, and indirectly with more than 500,000. And I get amazed by the kind of things people do. Because you just taught the women in the villages to get together, to sit together, discuss. We have 4 principles in CORD. The 4 principles are active participation, integration, networking, and sustainability. It works like magic. Because active participation, I mean, any institute, the biggest of the biggest board can do that, and even a community-based organization in the village can do it. What do I mean by active participation? Decision-making from planning to implementation should be the people's thing. One thing. Second is they should give some time to it. Put in some effort and give a little chanda, little donation, to your meeting every month. Even 1 rupee per month to 10 rupees per month is all right, they decide. So when you give all this, ownership comes. And when there's ownership, there's a lot of work that happens, and every issue gets integrated. The other 2 principles, networking, you start networking between yourself in the villages, you network with the Gram Panchayat, you network with all the departments of the government and all stakeholders. They learn from us and we also network. So that's a big, we are not working in a vacuum, so we network a lot. And sustainability is an outcome of self-reliance that comes through. So Narendra calls it the Pisna principle. Pisna, churning and Pisna. So piso, jitna pisoge utna acha, it will be as good as you do it. So this principle have given us a lot of work that has been carried out. Our return on investment is very, very high. We tell many of our donors that all your investment in 3 years will be returned, and by 4th or 5th year, it will be different. So through the people, it will be returned. The impact is been great. Sometimes we do small interventions and the government picks it up. I'll give you an example. In 2005, I went to a village in Odisha, and it was summer, 50 degrees centigrade. In the jeep, we had finished our water bottles, and on the way we crossed a few hand pumps and we worked on it, and they were not working. There was no water there. We crossed a river. The river was dry. And then I reached the village and people were waiting under a tree, about 200 of them. And one woman came and gave me a glass of water just like this. It was like a breath. So I said, where did you get this water from? There was no water all the way. And they said, oh, you know that river, we could get it from the river. I said, but I've just crossed the river is dry. She said, no, we put our pond, separate the sand and put it in and we get the water. I said, wow, so how many years since you've been independence? 1947 and this is now 2005. What are you all doing? We all have brains, we have hands, we have legs. We have to resolve the issue. No one's going to come and resolve these issues for us. So what is the solution? You tell me. Then one woman under the veil, she said, poker. Poker in Odia means pond. I said, yeah, pond. We dig a pond. But where? Where is the land? Then someone else came and whispered in my ears and said, oh, there are 11 families here. They own a low-lying land and there's no cultivation going on that site. Maybe if they contribute and give it, because it's a useless land for them. So I said, okay, I know I'm the international beggar, so I can do that work well. So decided to go from one home to the other. When you're in a village and you reach with a jeep, all the little kids, you become a Pied Piper, They follow you wherever you go and they want to. So before I reached any home, they would tell them that she's coming for this purpose. Okay, they were my great helpers, my ambassadors. But that night, you wouldn't imagine, it was a dark village, there was no electricity there. With the help of the lights of the jeep, I would see the path, but later on, we couldn't, when we started entering the village, still I couldn't see the path anymore. We lit a few diyas, 1 or 2 diyas, and we went. And when I went to each house in the village, it was like I was talking to silhouettes, I couldn't see their faces. But by the Lord's grace, my ambassadors, they had already told them that the last home has already said yes. So this home also said yes, and so what? At the end of 11 homes all said yes. And we sat on the road that night, and we prayed, did bhajans and thanked the Lord for giving us the land. And I said, now what do we do? Who's going to take the pond? And the villagers told me that come back on Friday, 2 days later. We would have done the job. I said, but I'm going to other villages. They said, no, you have to come back. I said, okay. And 2 days later, I came back to the village. They had started digging at 6 o'clock. By 9 o'clock when I reached, even a 4-year-old child was digging. Everyone was digging. They had found water. They had struck water. So you see what happens. And 2 years later when I went, there was a whole lot of cultivation going around that site where it had not been done for years. So people can do many things. But the other system that we set up was a chauka system because all the wells were dry. And no one did. We did it away. Did only 2 samples of chauka system that were rainwater harvesting with very little cost can be done. And I said, okay. I told the villagers, please do it in other areas. Your wells will be revived, they're dry. But they didn't do it. And a few years back, Narendra went to that site and he said, Didi, you know what's happened? Now acres and acres of chokka system is being done by the government. The soil and conservation department has taken it over. Someone must have visited, he saw that this is some very easy technique for water harvesting, and they adopted it. So sometimes you do things you think it is not going to go anywhere, but some bright person comes and sees it and adopts it, and it can be replicable in a larger way. So I believe a lot in the people, their power, and their innovativeness, their insights, and their wisdom. And all the time, nowadays when Guruji came, and then now Swami Sarupananji visited the villages, he said, oh, these women don't need to be empowered. They are a powerhouse. Because everyone was doing something or the other and by themselves. To just end my talk with another woman's story who surprised me a few days back. We have leadership get together once in a month, and that day the batch came and one woman got up and asked, they will give them 3 minutes to tell us what they have done. So she said that, my child had become an addict, youth, 18, 20 years old, and husband passed away. His addiction was so bad that he used to beat his mother up and made her sold the little land that she had because he needed his addiction money. But then one day suddenly she decided, I'm not going to take it anymore, I have to get him rehabilitated. She put him into a rehabilitation center. He got rehabilitated out in 6 months' time. But when he came out, she followed him for 2 years, wherever he went. If he went to the work, she would be there. She would tell, Mama, don't follow me now because I've become all right. But she said, no, in between people come, the other friends come, why don't you join us back again? Why you stop taking the drug? But then she knew that her child has come out, but there may be many more mothers like me who have suffered. And she said after that, she announced it in 40, 50 villages. If anyone has an addicted young youth, come to me, I will help him out and lead the family out. 25 other youths she's got rehabilitated on her own as a volunteer. She was just a member of a Mela Mandal. Yeah. So they surprise us. I worship them. I worship the women in the country. They're really Nari Shakti. And they can do many things that we are not capable of. And I would invite some of you to spend some time, maybe 1 day to 2 days in the field. I can't explain everything to you now, but I can only give you some glimpses because the program has now become very huge with Param Pujya Guru's grace. And I don't know from where help comes. We started mental health. Out of the disability, there are 21 types of disability. Mental health is one of them. And we were just doing some work. Out of the blue, my friend who just retired from All India Institute of Medical Sciences as the head of psychiatry department says, I'm coming to see you, and I'm coming with the head of NIMHANS, which is India's largest mental hospital. Bangalore Dean, who has just retired himself. We are both coming to see you. And now, Gurudev has provided me with the best people in the world for mental health. All volunteer work to design the program, get it aired. I don't know where help comes from. The next day, things just happen. And it's all His blessings. And each program by itself is something that can be replicable. If I talk about sanitation, there's so many stories. We build more than 50,000 toilets. If you're school management, you cannot build, you can only build one school, but you cannot look after. But when you enter with the people into school management committees of the government, you can bring about so many changes. Everything, you don't need to do it. You don't have to duplicate the government programs, but make sure that the programs run with facilitation. So that's what God does. And I'll just show you a little movie was built really, some of you might have seen it. It was made in 2008. But it will give you some idea about many things that we do. And then if you have time, we might have some question answers. So 8-minute movie, please. Kushi, I'll move out. Is it? Oh, it's there. Okay, that's fine.
मेरा नाम है खुशी।
किसने दिया ये नाम?
दीदी ने।
तुम्हारा नाम खुशी क्यों रखा?
खुश खुश रहना।
कितनी खुश है तू?
बहुत।
Khushi, meaning happiness, is coming home from foster care at Southern. It's been almost a year since she left. A lot has changed since then, including her name. Khushi's mother, Setu, still refers to her daughter as Benita, the name she chose when her little girl was born. Setu has mixed emotions. Happy because her 6-year-old is home. Anxious because she knows her homecoming will be unpleasant.
अभी पति इसका बहस कर रहा था, कहता 50-60 हजार दे दो। मैंने कहा तू बेच रहा है इसको? कमरा दरवाजा तोड़ देना, अंदर रहने नहीं देना, इसको बाहर निकाल देना। लड़ते लड़ते इन्होंने 2 बच्चे पैदा कर दिए, एक ये लड़का और एक वो बिल्ली।
Rejected by her husband, her in-laws and her brother, Setu thought she had nowhere to go. It was then, in her moment of desperation, that God reached out to Setu. Setu's world had fallen apart. When her son Krishna was born, Setu was thrown out of her husband's home. She went to her brother's house. Angry at this imposition, her sister-in-law twisted and broke the newborn baby's leg. Little Krishna will carry his limp and deformity through life.
Women are the heart of our program. Being a pediatrician, I had begun the program with maternal and child health. But when we began working with people, especially women, they raised a number of issues that affect their lives. Treating them was not the issue that they wanted us. They were trying to tell us about their illiteracy, their helplessness, their low self-image in the society, their poverty. These were the issues they wanted us to address.
God started in a small way in 1985 at Siddhavadi in North India. It had a simple vision to transform rural India. Development for God is all about showing people their options, teaching them to transform their own lives. Harnessing the potential of thousands of people, God has touched lives in almost 600 villages. The first step in making Setu self-reliant was to introduce her to the local Mahila Mandal or women's group. Mahila Mandals are the backbone of God's programs. God knows the power of speaking as one voice. Setu needs the support of the village women. It is the women who will sustain Setu's spirit in the days ahead.
इसको जो हक दिलाएंगे, इसको अपना अधिकार दिलाएंगे।
At God's informal legal cell, social workers interface between Setu, the police, and a lawyer provided by the National Human Rights Network. A large part of God's success is because they work closely with other NGOs, institutions, and government. When Sethu gave her contribution of 20 rupees, less than half a dollar, she took her first step towards economic independence. Self-help groups are the core of Mahila Mandals. They are a form of microbanking. The groups contribute a fixed sum every month. A small bank grows, and this money is then loaned to other group members. Over the years, just by saving less than half a dollar a month, 22,000 women have put into circulation more than $2.4 million. With easier access to loans, women start small enterprises on their own, and soon, a healthy cycle of income generation begins. Initiated in simple skills, Sethu begins to support herself and her son Krishna. She even manages to buy herself a pair of silver earrings.
अब मैं तो तपु बढ़ते जाई करी सुधरी यही एक मियो सलाह दी थी कम खाने कमाने दी रहने दी.
Encouraging education of girls is big on Court's agenda. Traditionally, the girl child is kept at home to care for younger siblings. Determined to make a break with the past, Balwadis or nursery schools especially encourage girls to enroll. Almost all Balwadi children progress to further formal education. Self-confidence, knowing their rights, making choices. This is what the Yuvati groups teach adolescent girls. The Panchayat, local self-governance. Women in particular are encouraged to participate. The outcome? More women active in local politics. In 21 years, Board's influence has spread wide, and it is now a national model for rural development. Similar development projects have started in Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and Orissa.
इंसान कैसे बदलता है इन सब जगहों पर आके बदलता है ऐसी जगह मैंने कहीं तो नहीं देखी.
With its everything is possible and never say die attitude, Ford has touched and transformed lives. When working with the people, Ford workers keep one goal in mind. Ultimately, communities must be able to stand on their own feet. They must take the program forward. This is the measure of sustainable development. The process does take time, but it is the best way, as proved by the developments in Sethu's life. Sethu is now a changed woman. Secure in Court's support, she is full of a new confidence.
As years go by, my belief that many more people will come out and help, not only because they are helping, but because they are exploring within themselves to a greater fulfillment. And I look out for those people and welcome them.
questions? We have a few minutes left, 10 minutes. Yeah. हाँ जी. Yeah, we are now in 5 states doing the same program and more than 1,200 villages. So now our future plans are going out to more remote area, doing it for few villages, few panchayats there, focus panchayat interventions, hoping other people just learn from us and pick it up and go ahead. Because we can't be anywhere, but we are going on to those areas that are very remote and very backward. Now some of the areas are so backward that I can't reach them anymore because of my body now. But our team is very strong. They go there. Oh yeah. See, it's about harnessing everyone. That's why networking is very important. All government programs are made at the national level. They flow to the state, from the state to the districts, from the districts to the block, and ultimately to each gram panchayat. So that all departments come down. Their whole system of reaching out is this gram panchayat. So God's model is focused intervention into a gram panchayat, so that all the government programs that come, the people themselves we connect together. They don't know many programs and schemes of the government, so we discuss and let them identify the right person, the right beneficiaries, and go on. And then we tell them just not the government program. You are the rulers. You've been elected. Do many more things beyond the government also. There are many social aspects the government may not have any program for, but you take it up. Like during the pandemic, you will be surprised that the villages in the countries, especially in the area where we work, hospitals, people were dying, no one would touch the bodies. And then the pandemic taught us to Zoom over to and have meetings and teleconferences that we did with all the panchayats. We said, find a solution, we can't be so inhuman. So they found very good solution. They got the PPT click, 4 people. They would only touch the body. Rest of the village managed everything, the feeding of the family, looking after their grief, the social interaction, the cremation, everything was done by the people. Have a lot of power when they come together. It's in our system, it is there in the villages, it was dying, all we did was to revive it. They themselves raised the funds to give it to the Prime Minister's fund. They collected their extra harvest, donated to the government that give it to those villages where there's no food. They told us that our village women called us back and they said, Didi, we promise you no one will go hungry in our village. We look after. And our husbands and some of our brothers are coming back, reverse migration to the village. And they took loans. In that 1 year, the village women in our area of work took a loan of 17 crore rupees to revive the livelihood. And they paid back the bank for their husbands and their brothers and everyone to resettle. So it is replicable. You asked a question. We work with everything. Yes, sir. Smack. Yeah, Khushi now is a graphic designer. And Krishna, just now Narendra got him because he loves cooking. So he's gone into a catering college. Now Narendra's just admitted, huh? Pardon? Hotel management, yeah. So, How much has changed?
How much has that changed the needs of the panchayats that you need to now work with?
Many dimensions. You have to look into health, you have to look into nutrition, sanitation, hygiene, water resources, electricity, communication. In last 38 years, it's not just God doing it, government is also doing it. Everyone, it's a remarkable change. A lot of change. Hello? We have around 190, 200 people working with us, and they are the real backbone. Without them, we can't do anything. They are the main facilitators, and they do a fantastic job. They work like they're very dedicated, very committed. I'm very proud of our team, very proud. And the team leader is sitting here. He works 24/7. Yes, Nimish.
What I was thinking is, after you rescue these women from these situations, what do you do for the men to keep them?
Very good question. See, all men are not like this. There, in the whole village, there may be one or two like that. Most men are wonderful people. But they do not understand gender issues, some of them. So we do have gender classes. And now the women in the village select the men of the month. Really? And they have competitions. Because they say, okay, we've nominated 4. So all the village women want to say, okay, which one? So come on, make the salad, sweep, who sweeps better, and all that. And they give them marks. And there are various methods of finding out who's the man of the month.
Specifically, why do we have this problem in India? Is it an Indian problem? And why do we hear so much about women's abuse in India?
Oh, I think it's very wrongly depicted. It's not, this movie is about one woman, because, we didn't do it. What happened was, we had someone coming from, Swamiji sent someone to make a movie on us. And when they went to the field, they saw it and they made it, a film out of it, they shot it. So it's, I think it's very wrongly depicted. People do suffer. It's not a lie that there's no domestic violence, but it's all over the world. It's nothing much more. In fact, I find it very amusing when I talk to the men in the villages. And they're so innocent. They say, oh, so we make difference. I mean, we are discriminating between the men and the women. I said, yes, of course you are. So, when you talk to them, deep down, remember Sanatan Dharma worships women. We have our Devis. We worship little girls. So when I remind them of all that, and others, it is more about creating awareness, but there is domestic violence. We have a domestic violence program. But I wouldn't say it is any more. In fact, it is less in certain ways, because you must remember that we have gone through 1,000 years of invasion. North India, women cover their head. South India, they don't cover. Why? Because North India was invaded a lot of times. To save their women, they started covering and veiling them. South India doesn't have that practice. North India has weddings at night. South India in the morning. Shastras, it is morning weddings, but because of the invasion, to protect the women, they used to because otherwise they would be picked up and kidnapped. So night weddings started. So there's a lot of things we have to really work at. But we also have a very great saving grace of our Shastras. So we work together, and if you start looking at population and the number of crimes, it's much less. In total numbers will be larger because the population is very high, but as per ratio, it's not that high. Yes, please.
Can I ask, I know a few years ago, one of the chicks from over here went to court and did some work there, and I'm not sure, for a couple of months. Do you still have a similar system where, for instance, over here there's a history of volunteer in the hill for doing fraud? Do you have a similar system?
Yeah, we have lots of interns, lots of volunteers coming from India and abroad, everywhere. Certain universities send their students. We have collaborations with quite a few universities. They do internship program, and others do volunteer work. We also have a fellowship program. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, so yeah, you can do fundraising also, and but I always tell everyone that you have your own mission centers to look after too. So do whatever is possible, and we welcome that many people raise funds for us, and we also look for grant and aid through other agencies too. So we work with many people to raise funds, so we'll look forward to you people joining us for fundraising. Yes, please. Manpower. Greatest challenge is manpower. It's a very, even I tell people in the corporate sector, here we have to be more professional, more efficient than even your corporate sector. So I do need a lot of more people who have had a very good education to come and join this very challenging job where there is so much to be done. And people can come for short time, that we welcome too, but we need them for larger time to take a program responsibility. So manpower is a big challenge. To work in remote area is not easy. It's romantic, but it's not so easy. Any other questions? Yes, please. Yeah, please do that. Yeah, it's easy. Our email ID is very easy, kodsidbadi@gmail.com. You just write to us, then whatever issue you have, you would want to help us with, we'll respond back and then get into a dialogue where we can work together at a solution, or some contact that you can give us for granting aid or anything. So we would welcome it. Yes, please. You have to speak a little louder. I'm hard of hearing. The answer to this program is that when you bring people to the center, if programs are people-centric, then it is what I call social capital, not only financial capital. Social capital gets mobilized. And that social capital has abilities and capacities that need to be synergized with their insights and wisdom. And then the sky is the limit. Yeah, internally. But we do have facility. We do a lot of trainings because the community-based organizations, the women's group, have to learn how to operate like any board of directors. You know, they start having to learn to, you have to write minutes of the meeting, you have to have an agenda, you have to have a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. So they learn all that, and women manage homes. So managing a village is not a big job. Okay, so we do Shanti Pat, Subramachani ji. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om. Thank you, everybody.
Hari Om. I've watched that Khushi movie about 50 times, and each time it brings a lump to my throat. Having been to Siddhabari for the last 25 years, each time I go, Kshama Didi makes sure that someone takes me to the villages. I've been to Narendrabai as well. And I've been to these Mahila Mandals and seen the women and their evolution over the years. It's incredible to see those who were abused by alcoholic husbands now in makeup and running their own operations, running their own shops. I'm on WhatsApp with some of them, by the way. And they still remember me. They remember Mohit, remember Prem when he was 8 or 9 years old. And the work which is being done is incredible. Amma is still very modest about what she's done. In the last Civics meeting, I said puja is the highest form of worship. Seva is the purest form of love. She's the embodiment of seva. Now the question is, how can we help? And I think that's the question Raj was alluding to as well. The vast array of programs implies a vast array of talents which are needed. Money, of course, is a big issue, but if you can help in any way with your talents, either sitting at home, going there for a short period or a long period, it's all welcome. So you're only limited by two things, your willingness and your availability. You may be available but not willing, or willing and not available. If both criteria apply and you want to help, contact Jessica, who's our coordinator in the UK for many, many years. If you need to speak to me, I'm always available, and you can always contact Kshama Didi directly as well.
And Narendra, please Narendra.
And Narendra is now the COO. I'll leave only on one note, I think Guruji's quote on what is cord. And it has struck me. He says, cord is a bond between a giver and a receiver. Normally you give and someone receives, but cord is special, in which the giver evolves spiritually, Chitta Shuddhi, and the recipient is transformed. Two things. So if you want to evolve spiritually, a vast field is now ahead of us. Take it or leave it, it's up to us. Kshama Didi, it's been a privilege to have you and known you.
Thank you so much.
Hari Om.
Thank you for supporting us all the time.
There's a light dinner upstairs, so if you want to meet Kshama Didi or have a meal, please join us upstairs.